Gaan we praten met David Heine. Hij is de man die het programma Aspect Art al een tijdje maakt en presenteert, samen met zijn zoon. En dat is langzamerhand ook een begrip geworden. Op zondag is er altijd Aspect Art. Een programma over cultuur in de breedste zin. Maar het gaat heel vaak over musea, over kunstenaars, over kunsttentoonstellingen, over galeries, over kunst. En de bedoeling was altijd om dat programma in het Engels te brengen, omdat we dachten, op zondag zijn er heel veel toeristen in Amsterdam. En voor die toeristen en voor de Engelssprekenden, de expatriates, doen we dat programma in het Engels. En die Nederlanders, nou, heel veel Nederlanders spreken Engels. En dat is bijna een heel belangrijk bestanddeel geworden van het Kleurnet menu. Niet alleen iedere zondag, maar af en toe hadden we ook een Art Week en dan deden we alle programma's van een heel jaar. En om u een indruk te geven, ik geloof dat er bijna 200 programma's gemaakt zijn door David Heine en zijn zoon over musea, kunst en dat soort dingen in Amsterdam. En dan heb ik het niet over 200 items, dan heb ik het over bijna 200 uur. Want ze zijn al een paar jaar bezig. Welcome, David. We're going to talk a little bit about your show, but let's first discuss, well, Kleurnet is ending. What does that mean for you personally?
Well, it's come about rather suddenly for me. I mean, I wasn't aware of it until this week because I was in France, and it's very unfortunate, I think. I think what Kleurnet provides for the Amsterdam public is a kind of alternative to the rather slick, more polished kind of television that everybody more or less goes to sleep to every day. Mm. And I think Kleurnet, while it's not always even quality-wise, I think always seeks to find interesting content, things you won't really see elsewhere. And I know in the case of the art that we've presented on Kleurnet, I haven't seen any other
art program that does that.
Art program that goes after it quite like we have in the way of presenting in-depth programming of what really is going on in the art world. And I think it's unfortunate for the people of Amsterdam, actually, to lose an asset like Kleurnet. I mean, they might not agree with what you say or what I do
I'm the bad guy here, yes.
or
Okay.
what is really going on, but at the same time it's provocative. It provides, it at least provides something where you can make a decision about. You can say, yes, I like that, or what an asshole, or, you know, it really creates an edge where there's a clear delineation as to something to really think about. And that's what is totally missing from what I see in the mainstream television.
Yeah.
And the alternatives, well, most of the programming that you see on alternative channeling or programming doesn't measure up. And I think
we tried, and you were one of the better. When we talk about slick, your programs were a lot better than most of the Kleurnet programs, and you were one of the groups that participated the longest, nearly from the beginning. And you started out with Indian material that you had, and then we developed the whole concept of the museum TV. I don't think there is even the smallest museum in Amsterdam you haven't filmed and interviewed the people.
I think we've
from the Tassen Museum to the Rijksmuseum.
Yeah, we've gone from handbags to antique glass, and everything in between. And I think within that context, we've presented to the people of Amsterdam the ability to make a choice as to whether they really wanted to get out and see that exhibition. I mean, television is never an acceptable substitute for the real thing. But at least we gave them something to think about. Well, do I want to go see this program at the Rijksmuseum? Do I want to go actually see what they have to offer at the Taschen Museum? And I think that's something that's kind of missing in the programming. What we tried to do on Aspect Art is to sort of do, how should I say, budget slick or budget.
Yeah, well, you tried to do the best with limited
budget
means.
We always went for the highest quality we could get within the budget means that we were provided.
And you actually achieved something, because at the last visit of the Queen to the Hermitage in Russia, in Leningrad, you were showing a piece of Aspect Art.
In fact, we did. We were fortunate enough because we made several programs for the Nieuwkerk, and they're more or less the instigators of the
Hermitage.
The Hermitage on the Amstel, and the Friends of the Hermitage, which have done a lot of restoration work in the Hermitage because they don't have any budget, and in many ways the museum is in dire need of help. And this group, because of our work with a lot of the Islam and the Mongolia exhibition and several, they liked what we were doing, and we were fortunate enough to be hired by them to make this short for the Queen, which was
obviously the Queen liked.
Was well received. Well, she clapped and congratulated us on it.
You never know with these.
Yeah, well, they've got
royal.
They have to kind of clap, but I mean, she did congratulate us on
the work. Yeah,
it
was a nice piece. But I've seen many nice pieces. I remember the glass piece that you did on the making of glass art.
We did a piece, another commission thing for Peter Bremer's glass artist, and we went to England and filmed it and came back, and it turned out nicely. But I think what I'm proudest of is that we made all these programs with a kind of limited resource, and they achieved enough.
But because let's make clear that all this was done with basically a fairly simple Sony camera, a 3-chip Model 1000. Which you used to the extent it was possible, very simple editing means, and you have made close to 200 items.
We've done. I think at last count we were up to about 185, depending on if you count some of the little incidentals that we might throw in.
Yeah. But that's 185 programs that were made without any subsidy,
right?
Without government support. Here or there, sometimes the museum would support you a little bit.
And once in a while, we were able to find sponsors, which was very fortunate for us.
But basically, you provided 185 programs in English. Now, do you think that, for instance, the tourists that were in the hotels have looked at those programs?
Well, I'd like to think so. I think also what I've found is that there's a large expatriate group in Amsterdam. They say now more than 30,000 English native speakers live in Amsterdam, and not a lot of them take the time, unfortunately, to learn Dutch. And it's unfortunate if they don't have any access to the cultural richness of Amsterdam. And I think part of our mission was to share that with this large group of people who are otherwise kind of excluded from the cultural
When we talk multicultural, most people think about
Amsterdam.
Turkish people and Moroccan people and Suriname people, but the expatriates, the English-speaking people, are a very large group.
And in fact, those are the people that
might buy the art.
That are most often interested in art. I mean, I hate to make it an elitist thing, but in some ways it probably is. Yeah. And it's a somewhat limited audience anyway. And I think those people, those Dutch people that are interested in art, were also interested in aspect art. Because they weren't getting it anywhere else. I mean, you never saw a program for 15 or 20 minutes about the new Signac exhibition at the Van Gogh. In fact, I know no other television program was made.
Talking about the body of your work, so there is 185 programs, whatever, hundreds of hours, more than 100 hours, because you made a full hour every week, consisting of
or 45 minutes, yeah.
What is going to happen with that material? I mean, this is a 3-year, in fact, because we started before Kleurnet even started. It's a 3-year blueprint of Amsterdam museums, art, whatever happened in town.
Well, certainly from a cultural point, it was.
It's a historical body
of what really went on, and I suspect, from an archive point of view, it was the only real record of someone talking with the curator of a show. Now, the interesting thing with the curators, of course, is they're a lot like an iceberg. They spend maybe 3 years preparing for this moment in the sun when that exhibition is at the archives or at the Rijksmuseum or whatever, and they don't really get to talk about this
work of them.
Incredible amount of knowledge that they have gained, or what they're presenting to the public. And what we gave them was the opportunity to really express more than the 30-second that was maybe allowed on NOS or the
Yeah, they would
1
give a
minute
very
program
short
at
clip
RT5, and they'd
yeah.
let them say one blip, and then they're, well, here's a man that spent, or a woman that spent 3 years preparing this exhibition, and it probably won't come back in our lifetime. So here is, to my way of thinking, oftentimes a very valuable record of these
of what
events.
happened in Amsterdam, yeah.
And some of these exhibitions were remarkable. But we went not only Amsterdam, but we covered lots of stuff in Laren at the Singer Museum, or in Rotterdam at the Kunsthalle, or Boijmans, or in The Hague.
Or Hoorn, or Haarlem. You did all the
Haarlem,
surrounding.
we did all of the museums
All the
there,
museums, yes.
in Hoorn.
And this is in fact what I now feel is Kleurnet will disappear, but we have, because I started, in fact I've done more than 5 years of taking down notes, visual notes of the city. But look at programs that we had for the senior people, the programs of Hans Berends that we've done. Hundreds and hundreds of organizations have gotten their 10, 15 minutes under the sun on Kleurnet on a regular basis. And that body is now, I would say it's not only cultural, but it's human. I would say manuscript, but it's a human treasure. And we'll try to put it on DVD, but I think one day people will come back and say, hey, at the end of that last century of the 20th century, for 5 years there was a station that portrayed art, the alternative movement, politics, what happened with old people, what happened with the poor people, what happened with the colored people, what parties were there, and so on. And I think that will be an interesting body. And since we are all within Kleurnet, we're all the producers of this, and we are in fact the co-owners. You have to understand it, that like the material that was made by Aspect Art for Kleurnet is jointly owned by the makers and Kleurnet. But so we all together have this treasure, historical treasure of what happens. And it's quite different, because you have to understand that a television station like 85 or TV Noord-Holland or even the big, large, they don't own the material. They buy it. They buy programs from outside producers. No, we've made it all. It's ours, and we can put it on the internet in years to come. You can go all around the world and show what Amsterdam was in the English language. And we have actually did. We have sent your programs off to Kathmandu, to Suriname, to the Antilles, to be shown to people, to show what Amsterdam was. And again, this was all done without subsidy, without government support. But I think we have made a body of work. And even if Kleurnet ends, I think I can be proud of what we did, and I can be proud for you and with you for the work you did, because Aspect Art was, well, a very important program in our bundle.
Well, I think in some ways we've pulled off a remarkable achievement here, in the sense that we started from scratch, and I think over the last year we've really picked up speed and quality, and we were finally getting our feet on the ground as to a
yes, your material was shown to the Queen. You can say that we were lacking quality there, yes.
But more and more, I think that as a group, it had come together in a coherent manner, and was starting to, I think, have an impact on the community. And that's really what we wanted from the beginning. And
that's probably why we have to go.
And in that sense, probably it became maybe threatening in some way. I don't know. Maybe we flatter ourselves to think that. But in one sense, I think over the years we have, like you said, created a body of work that will express probably closer to the roots of what Amsterdam has been over the last 5 years than any other. I mean, if you look at the news of every night.
Do you know what I sometimes feel that in my dark nights, because I'm pretty angry about what's happening. I thought, let's burn this whole shit. Let's deprive the city of this historical treasure and burn it. Go to the dam and burn those. We have more than 3,500 hours of television, yes, of finished product, edited product. We have more than 30,000 tapes with historical material. Like now, we're talking about Herman Brood. We have the material. We have the material of all the politicians. And I thought, let's burn this. Make a big fire on the dam and say, Amsterdam, this is what you had coming. if you don't want the art doesn't want you.
But it's really not Amsterdam. I suspect, given their druthers, maybe Amsterdam would choose to continue with this
I think
experiment
Amsterdam.
in television.
Yeah, I think Amsterdam.
I think
if
more
you ask the Amsterdam people,
people.
Badly enough, the Amsterdam people were not asked. There was not done any research on the numbers viewing Kleurnet. There was no statistics. The APR decided that we were not multicultural, we were not varied, we didn't give space to groups from the Amsterdam community. In short, we didn't live up to what we promised. And I think we did. And I think Aspect Art was one of the programs that lived up to that promise, to be cultural, to be varied, and to be a platform for, in this case, the Amsterdam art world. So from my point of view, David, for you and your son, thank you. You were
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Part of the team, and
let us do it.
Well,
I learned a lot.
We learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.